Hello, welcome to TVP World. My name is Jasser, and it's my pleasure to welcome Katrín Jakobsdóttir. Is that the correct pronunciation?
It's perfect pronunciation.
Thank you. The former Prime Minister of Iceland until 2024. We're speaking on the sidelines of an Arctic conference. So I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of focus in this conference on security. What is your biggest concern?
Well, obviously, the world is, we are living in precarious times. We are seeing a rise in conflicts around the globe, and this increased tension is obviously also having its effect here in the Arctic and the subarctic. So,
what are the specific examples of that rising tension, particularly here in the Arctic?
Well, of course, as you know, after Russia's illegal invasion into Ukraine, that had a severe effect on the operation of the Arctic Council, which is where the 8 Arctic states and the 6 permanent participants, the indigenous peoples, they actually have, that is our formal collaboration. Since 22, that collaboration, of course, has been limited by the fact that Russia invaded Ukraine, so it has disrupted it. There are also, of course, increased tensions in the world. We saw the interest of the US authorities to buy Greenland, which has also been something very controversial here in the Arctic.
But at the same time, it rose awareness of the security threat to the Arctic, particularly Western interest there.
Exactly.
So was that intervention in the end beneficial to the region?
Well, I think it caused a lot of disruption within, of course, Greenland, because Greenland is a huge country, and I know there are a lot of interest in it, both because of defense and security, but also because of, and also other economic interests. But I think what we are seeing here at the Arctic Circle Assembly is simply the fact that this is an item moving up on the agenda, and at the same time we have other security threats that we must not, we cannot forget. And there I'm obviously referring to the climate security threat. The fact that climate change is happening at a multiple pace here in the Arctic. We are seeing different aspects of it, wildland fires in the permafrost areas. We're seeing rising sea levels and melting ice. And all of this is not just affecting the Arctic, but the rest of the globe.
But in a sense, climate change is also the reason why Arctic is becoming so interesting to, for example, China and Russia. There was a Chinese ship just the other day that passed through the northern route. And, so what I would like to get from you is there any specific example or examples of these security risks or threats or hostility from Russia or from China?
I simply say, all of us are absolutely aware that there are tensions, and those, that the Arctic is not excluded. And what we saw, after the Cold War, the Arctic Council is founded. In 2021, the Arctic Council decides on a strategy to 10 years where all those 8 Arctic states and the permanent participants, the indigenous peoples, say, we want to see the Arctic as a peaceful area, a stable area, a low tension area. But what has happened in the world is that we are seeing tensions rising, and sadly, the Arctic is not excluded. And that, of course, also, because there are also these economic interests, as you so rightly mentioned, is also creating pressure on the ecosystem.
So in a sense, some of the, let's say, soft concerns are giving way to hard security issues.
Well, yes. And, coming from Iceland, where we have a very broad vision of security and safety, because we live in an island, where natural hazards are, for example...
And you don't have a standing army, do you?
We don't have a standing army. Of course, we've been...
Is that time to review this policy?
We have been members of NATO since 1949. We have a defense agreement with the United States. So our civilian institutions, like the Coastal Guard, are really our contribution into
but do you believe that, let's say, NATO presence here, military presence, should increase over the next few years? I don't know, boots on the ground, more ships?
No, my personal opinion...
Your personal opinion?
Yes, no, I think what we have been doing is that we have been trying to increase that collaboration in a strategic way. So for example, to keep a watch on the ocean, around Iceland, which is, this is a big economic zone, and that's what we have been doing and contributing in close collaboration with the NATO countries. And I think we have been forming our contribution in a very strategic way.
Right. Iceland is not part of the European Union.
No.
But you're in close cooperation.
Yes,
you
we are
have
part
special
of the
agreements.
European. Yeah.
So, given all these circumstances, both climate change and the security concerns, is it time to revisit this issue in Iceland, or do you think there's no point going back? It all works.
There are many who want to revisit this issue. Personally, I think we have actually managed to be an independent voice, but still in a very close collaboration with Europe. And I always say, Europe is our closest, they are our neighbors. We enjoy a very good collaboration. We are members of the European Economic Agreement. We have a lot of people coming here from
Poland.
From Poland, yes. And actually the biggest immigration community in Iceland are people from Poland. And that has, in my opinion, again, that has been good for the society. We have the Poles are so prominent in our society. I have many Polish friends, because they are really a very active part of the Icelandic society.
But Iceland is also attracting migration from other directions increasingly, and apparently it has also caused some social tensions.
Yeah, like everywhere in Europe. But the majority of those who come here to work and are simply very active citizens working here, paying their taxes, etc.
So is there a problem, let's say, with housing or,
There is a problem with
logistics?
housing here. Yes.
What are the issues?
Housing is a problem in Iceland. And I actually see that in many other European countries, that this is a continuous problem. When you mention immigration, I think a more specific problem is that Icelandic language is a very small language. And that is something that I think the Icelandic people are concerned about, because it takes a lot of effort to maintain a small language when you have around 18% of the people coming from other countries.
And then the language, the everyday language is English, or?
Often, but I think that is something, during my time in government, we increased spending on teaching Icelandic to those who come here, because the language is the key to society, and it's also part of maintaining the social cohesion. And that is because we were talking about security. I think for democratic countries right now, in this very polarized world where we see new technologies really changing the way we interact and have a dialogue, I think social cohesion is also something that we should bear in mind when we talk about security. Because during times of crisis, the most important role of our leaders is to maintain social cohesion. And in a democratic, free country, that can be problematic because of this increased polarization.
Right. So in terms of social cohesion, has this significant immigrant community, has it influenced politics here in any way? Do they vote?
It has.
Is there a backlash, for example?
They vote less, and of course it takes some time. You have to stay in the country for some time to be able to vote in all the elections. The local community elections, that's where most get to vote, and they vote less. And I think that's worrying, because I want the people who live in this country to be active and participate in the democracy.
So what do you want to get out of this conference? What would you like this conference to achieve in the next couple of days?
Well, Arctic Circle Assembly it's a democratic platform. It's a platform where you have different people talking together on stage. We open the floor for questions because we want people to be able to ask difficult and critical questions. And the reason that we're doing this is that we firmly believe that we need more dialogue in this world. In a tense area of international conflicts and polarization, we really need people to get together and have an open talk. And they don't have to agree, but
I've noticed that there is a lot of Chinese participants this year. So what would be your message to the Chinese as, this is becoming a controversial issue, their support for Russia, but also their push into the Arctic? What would be your sort of one-liner to China?
Well, I say we are ready to have a talk and a dialogue. But when we think about the Arctic and the non-Arctic states that are coming here, because there are many non-Arctic states who are very interested in the Arctic, we need to be mindful of that the Arctic is, of course, a global issue. It's a global issue because what happens in the Arctic doesn't stay in the Arctic. But it's also a local issue. It is a region where people live, and it's very important that we think about that balance between the Arctic as a local issue and then the global effects. But I think also, and we can't deny that for example, the melting ice in the Arctic is going to have effects on weather patterns in India, in China, etc. So obviously we cannot only think about the Arctic as a local issue.
Prime Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching World Talks, and stay on with us for more news and analysis.